you want to get an American deal first, and that's really what helped them, I think.
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's huge. It really is. And who knows what the reason is? It's all happening. It all happens here. Bigger population. And U.S. just seems to be that central place where people flock toward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
Meltdown here in studio with the guys from Autumn Kings, getting ready to head out to Europe. We've got Jake. Jake, good to see you.
Good to see you too, my guy.
Joe, how are you?
Good, sir.
Yeah, welcome to the RIF.
Thank you.
Now, you guys are originally from LaSalle, which how far away from the border is that for people that don't know?
Dude, it's maybe 15 minutes from the border.
And I was even closer. I'm like 5 minutes from the border.
Yeah, he moved to he's in Windsor now, which is like 30 minutes from the studio, and where we grew up and started the band was maybe 35 minutes from the studio.
And what kind of stuff did you guys grow up listening to, being so close to Detroit and so close to America?
That's what's really interesting is we got a nice blend of Canadian and American influences, but we grew up listening to WRIF, 89X2 for sure, and then all the concerts that we went to would be Joe Louis and then Little Caesars Arena. So very, very heavy American influence, like Kiss, Metallica, all the way to Eminem. And then we love Canadian bands too that you guys play too, like 3 Days Grace. We love Billy Talent, Sum 41. So it really spans across the spectrum. And then we also have more eclectic music taste too, where I can get really into the heavy metal stuff and Joe can get into
Love a folk song.
Gordon Lightfoot or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Canadian, right?
Yeah. So I guess I have to ask you, I mean, how big of Tragically Hip fans are you guys?
You know what's funny? Okay, so where we're from, actually, we're so Americanized. Where we're from, like, we love American bands, culture. I'm not a hip fan. I don't think you're a hip fan.
So it's funny, Meltdown. We used to play acoustic gigs, and this is how we would make money. We'd play cover songs to fund our originals, and at every bar we played, people would really enjoy what we were doing. And when someone would scream out, like, the Freebird in America, it's like, got any hip? And we never did. So we are the most blasphemous.
No.
Come on, Courage is such a great song.
It is.
They have amazing music,
Cajun.
but just we're stubborn rock stars.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So blasphemous.
No, it's so funny. So I was telling you guys, I grew up in Buffalo. I've lived here for the last 29 years. So I'm completely like, I shouldn't say completely, but I'm really like, I really kind of know what's going on in Canada as far as the music scene is concerned, for the most part. There's always bands that slip through and stuff, but of course. But yeah, the Hip was always one of those bands just growing up. You guys might be a little bit young for the Hip.
We're a little young. It was like my Uncle Bob. My Uncle Bob loved the Hip, but I can see why. I mean, they really struck a nerve with Canadians. Yeah, they really did. Even the way they got discovered in Toronto at a bar, it was just
they were Canada's
magic.
band for so long,
100%.
sung about Canada and Canadians. So
this is it. Yeah.
And so I'll ask you guys this, and I ask a lot of Canadian bands this, from the guys from Triumph to even newer bands. But how important is it for a Canadian band? And now I guess, you're in America now. You are an American?
I am an American citizen now.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Been an honor.
And who are you? By the way, before I get to my question, who are you rooting for last week with the hockey?
So this was tough for me. So the way I look at it is, if I were living in Canada, I would have voted Canada.
Yeah.
Now I'm living in the U.S. I got to vote for U.S. I got to.
He's got a USA sweater. I'm like, what are you doing?
I got to be a good citizen now, man.
Now you sound like my friend's wife voting for teams. Okay, vote for teams.
Big fans here, big hockey fans.
Right, big hockey fans. So anyway, how important is it for a band like you guys to like strike a chord or kind of get noticed in the States?
It's everything.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, I mean, that's why we focused on Detroit when we first coming up. The States, just more opportunity for us, and that's where kind of our heart in music was. So I would say it was super important.
I'll tell you a really interesting story. So we befriended a guy named Tim Trombley, who actually works across the border at Caesars, and so books everyone who comes
Canadian.
through. Yeah. And he was an A&R guy at EMI Music in Toronto, where they signed Nickelback, Sum 41. And he sat us down when we were 19 years old, and he said, "Can I just give you one piece of advice?" And we said, "Sure, what's that?" He said, "Sign in the U.S. first. Yeah. You want to sign in the U.S. first, because there are bands like Moist and Sloan and other amazing Canadian treasures that should be known by the whole world, but because they signed in Canada first and they built there first, for some reason, I don't know the reason, but it didn't catch on, whereas bands like 3 Days Grace or Nickelback, or Theory of a Dead Man, they cracked in the U.S. and then it just spread. I think it's the Americans. The Americans are loud and proud too. Like when we used to do acoustic gigs in Canada, we would always be able to point out who the Americans
were,
because they didn't care. Like they didn't care to make themselves known. Canadians a little more reserved.
Even the crowds.
Also very loyal fans too.
Yeah,
the
even
Canadians.
the crowds, the Canadian crowds, if they love you, they're like, nice.
Yeah.
Americans are like, let's go.
Yeah. And you know, it's really convenient from a routing standpoint. Like we're going to be touring all across the U.S. in May and June, and it's just easy to go city by city by city. So our tank of gas really appreciates
Our starting points.
Playing there too.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But it's funny you mentioned that because I think I know I've asked the guys from 3 Days Grace this. So they said the same thing. It's like you want to get an American deal first, and that's really what helped them, I think.
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's huge. It really is. And who knows what the reason is? It's all happening. It all happens here. Bigger population. And U.S. just seems to be that central place where people flock toward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so for people that haven't heard your music on your socials and whatnot, it says Linkin Park and Fall Out Boy have a child, and it's Autumn Kings, right?
That's right.
And so the latest single is Snake Charmer, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was listening to it, and it kind of reminded me like a little bit of I Prevail-ish. To a certain degree. And so I was texting with Dylan from I Prevail just this morning. He's a huge hockey fan. I'm like, hey, have you heard of these guys?
Oh, no way.
And he says no, but he likes the song. He wanted me to say hello to you guys. But for someone
that's awesome.
who hasn't heard you or seen you guys play, tell us all about your band.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Linkin Park and Fall Out Boy Had a Baby is a good reference, a good starting point.
Okay.
Because people they like to just make the connections, and I know some artists have some insecurity complex about being compared to other artists. We love it because it just helps people give a rough idea of the world that they might be entering with Autumn Kings. But like we were touching on earlier, our influences span across the spectrum. Like Metallica is my favorite band of all time. ACD, I have to tell you the greatest WRIF ACDC story after too. My first concert, WRIF sponsored. And then Joe loving folk music.
My favorite band is Fleet Foxes, if you've ever heard of them. It's just like
Fleet Fox?
I love Fleet Foxes.
I don't know. Is that a Canadian band?
No.
It's like
Seattle.
You know, some
But yeah.
deep cut like alty band, and I love
Exactly.
August Burns Red, and so we really we span across the spectrum. But I'll go into a quick AC/DC one because they were a huge influence. And this was 2009 at the Palace when they were still doing concerts there, and Riff was sponsoring the show, and I was like a middle class white dude growing up in the suburbs, and we get to this concert. It was amazing, and I started smelling something through my nostrils. I was with my dad, and I said, Dad, what is that? And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, son, that's a thing called marijuana, and if you ever touch it, I'm going to kill you. And that was a Riff sponsored. So I just when we found out we were coming here today, I was like, I got to tell
The Riff
Meltdown.
saved you, man. The Riff saved you.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
I remember one time I was at a Dio concert when I was very young.
Dio?
Yeah, years ago. And, of course, the smell came over the crowd. This guy next to me was smoking some of that. And then honest to God, he started making lines on this CD next to him, and he's like, "Well, this is too expensive. I'm not going to offer you this." And I'm like a teenager. I'm like, that's cool, dude.
Dude, that's freaking insane.
Times have changed.
Yeah. Everyone's gotten soft now.
But back to your band. We don't need to talk about it.
That's
So
right.
you guys I saw this tour coming up. That is amazing. You guys are heading out to Germany and all over Europe and stuff.
All over
Co-headliner
By
Europe.
yourself, or
Kicks.
you tour with somebody?
Yeah, we're actually co-headlining with a band called Cyan Kicks. They're like a rock with some pop EDM influences, female fronted, from Finland of all places. And
Yeah.
so we're going to be joining up with them, doing 8 countries in 3 weeks.
So what kind of venues are you playing?
We're playing like nice clubs. I
Okay.
would say probably for your listeners, equivalent to Shelter St.
There you go.
Andrews.
Okay, like
Yeah.
1,000 seaters,
little-
1,500, something like that?
Yeah, a little bit
2 to
less.
5, yeah.
I'd say probably 300 to 500 capacity.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, yeah, good
But
warm up.
still, what the hell?
Yeah, our first time in Europe.
First time in
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah.
It's first time in Europe. You want to be conservative and not, extend further than you're able to the first time. But we're excited. We're going to be doing Switzerland, France, Belgium,
Yes.
Czech Republic, Poland, Austria, France.
All
it's
over.
all
Wow,
over.
that is
yeah.
so cool. And of course, now with the internet and stuff, you can log all this stuff and, have your fans follow you along. So then you just mentioned a tour this summer. So who's that going to be with?
Yeah, that's going to be with this
Bailey
chick
Spin.
named Bailey Spin. She ended up getting really popular doing covers, and she's got like an Avril Lavigne sort of rock vibe.
Punk vibe, yeah.
For us, we're really excited because we have so many fans that have been hearing us on Riff and other stations that they can't wait for us to just go across the U.S. and really perform properly. So we're hitting a lot of new cities that we've never played before, and
Some we have.
some that we have before too. So it's
That's
gonna be
really
exciting.
cool. Yeah, that's very exciting. So you guys got the whole tour bus and all the stuff ready to go?
Everything's
Tour van.
everything-
Van, yeah.
Rocking in the van, ready to rock and roll. Yeah, all the pieces in place. We're rehearsing all week.
Yep.
This week for Europe too, and it's just nonstop releasing music and
We're home for like a month, and then we go out again.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
touring.
think that European tour, does it start like on March 6th or something?
March 6th is
Yeah,
the first
so it's
show.
coming up
March
fast.
4th.
It's
Oh, yeah.
coming up. Yep.
7 days.
Yeah.
7 days today we leave.
Yep. We leave a week. Right out straight to Frankfurt and playing for them European fans. Yeah. They've been screaming and kicking and screaming
years.
online for years to see us play. And so it feels really good to get out to that side of the world. It means a lot. You know, there's an aura with American bands and Canadian bands when they go to Europe, from everything we've been told. They just appreciate so much that you traveled over an ocean to
And they're
come
rock
play for
fans.
them.
They love rock music.
Yeah, and
do.
sometimes I think that sometimes here in the States, we're a little bit spoiled, obviously, because most of the bands are already here.
This is
You
it.
know?
Yep.
And so some of those bands, like I remember talking to Zoltan from Five Finger Death Punch one time, and they'd have to travel hours to go see a show. You know?
Right.
I think
Yeah.
he told me they went like 3 hours to see Pantera or something. You
In
know, back
Hungary,
the day.
right?
Yeah.
where he's from.
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a really unique experience too, moving here, and he really appreciated that opportunity for Five Finger. I think they're from LA, I want to say.
They're from
started.
more Vegas, but
Vegas, there we
yeah,
go.
but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
but Zoltan, of course, you know, from Hungary, like you say.
Awesome.
But no, that's great. So then, of course, you know, you got merch, you got all this stuff you're gonna be taking with you.
Yes,
Taking
sir.
all the merch with us. Yep. Yeah, it's really crazy. Like the Europeans, there's something about rock music. Here we have, you know, I would say it's probably fair to say at the forefront is pop, country, rap, and rock is still big, especially on the live front.
Right.
But you know, pop and rap are just so dominant in the U.S. Whereas in Europe, it seems like rock is actually
Never went away, man.
Even I have a buddy, Andy, and we came as Romans.
Yeah.
And I bump into him at the coffee shop sometimes in Royal Oak.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, because I've been following them for 10 or 15 years, these last few years, they've had like a resurgence where their streaming numbers are through the roof. Their tickets are selling like crazy in Europe and even in the U.S., but especially in Europe. So they just have like a natural loving for rock music.
Yeah.
Do you ever bump into Lou in Royal Oak? Lou Cotton from We Come as Romans?
No, I haven't yet.
No.
Is he over there too?
Yeah, so yeah, I met him like, I don't know, it's got to be 15 years ago now or so. I haven't seen him in person since, but I see him online. I'll DM him or whatever. You know?
yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, super good guys.
There's a lot of good rock guys around. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, I Prevail, We Came as Romans. There's so much out of the U.S. That's one of the really
Michigan area, yeah.
It's one of the really interesting things just moving over here. Where we're from, the blue collar, maybe the town of LaSalle and city of Windsor. When you tell people you're pursuing music, they'll typically say, "Oh, that's cool," but like, what are you doing for a real job?
Oh yeah.
Right?
They still think I play like acoustic gigs on the weekend. They're like, "Where are you going?" Germany.
Yeah, they don't get it. And when I came here and you'd bump into people at a coffee shop or wherever, it's very common. It's very just normal. People just dream big like here. I love it.
Well,
It's
you know, we were
Detroit.
talking about it when we were walking up here. So I've been here for almost 30 years now. And
Yeah.
and when I first got here, it's like this is where like Seeger and Alice Cooper and Nugent,
Yeah.
like all these bands come from. And since I've been here, it's the White Stripes, Kid Rock, Eminem, you know, I Prevail. It's like it just keeps going.
Yeah, it keeps going. Hopefully we can keep
Yeah,
we can
hopefully
keep it
we're
going
thrown in
now.
there, yeah.
yeah. Don't quit on me, Joe.
Never, brother. Never.
Hey, by the way, you probably answered this question a bunch, but where'd you come up with the name Autumn Kings?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting. Coming up with a band name is always
The
just
hardest
the
thing in
most
the world.
Yeah.
dreadful process. So in typical Canadian fashion, we sat down at a Tim Hortons and had this whole list of band names. And basically the criteria is which names
sounds
don't
cool.
make me hate
Yeah,
my
yeah,
life
exactly.
and cringe looking at them.
Exactly.
And so the one that we hated the least, not liked, but hated the least was Autumn Lions.
That's right.
So we said, that sounds pretty good, but there's something about it's not perfect. And I think Joe was like,
Kings.
what about Autumn Kings? And we'll make the lion the logo, the lion symbolizing the king of the jungle. And all of us, nobody was excited.
No
but
one
we were all
hated
just,
it. yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Okay,
right,
and then we rolled with it, and it's got the 3 syllables. It's chantable at
Yeah,
shows.
that's right.
It
People like it.
Kind of rolls off
Yeah,
the
yeah,
tongue.
yeah.
I heard a study a long time ago that if you have like a k sound,
That's
like
right.
Coca-Cola, it's catchier.
Buddy,
so.
why do you think I said Kings?
Yeah, so you're a genius, dude.
No, Google is. Google is.
Now you guys met each other while working
At a
over-
grocery store.
in Canada.
That's
Yeah,
right. We
yeah.
had one break together,
Yeah,
and we're like, "Yo, you play music? I play music. We should get together and jam." Never did.
yeah.
And this was like 10 years ago.
Oh,
2013.
yeah,
Oh,
way
okay.
longer.
I got-
We didn't jam until 10 years ago.
We didn't jam. I got fired from that job for reasons that maybe we shouldn't say
Do
on
not
air.
disclose.
I let a kid.
You're gonna say it?
I let a kid steal a Reese's. Another guy I worked with steal a Reese's Pieces
So he's
chocolate
nice.
bar.
Classic
very
Canadian.
Canadian of you.
Yeah,
Very
classic Canadian.
I was trying to be a
Should've
nice
been an
guy.
O. Henry.
I got canned, but we met at this Freshco. It's kind of like Aldi or Kroger for the
Yeah.
Americans. And it was an empty promise. We should jam sometime. We bumped into each other in the break room. I
Never
got
heard
his
from
number
him.
on my BlackBerry.
Yep.
And
BlackBerry, wow.
and then a year later, I was getting more serious about starting a band. So I dug up my old BlackBerry in the closet while I had my iPhone. I'm like, what's his name? Joe Coach. I couldn't pronounce his last name. And
his name in my phone is still Jake from Freshco because I didn't know his last name when I met him. Can't change it.
Yeah.
Can't change it.
You can't change it now. It's too late.
Absolutely not.
It's too late. We jammed together and it just clicked, and here we are
Started
talking
writing,
to you.
and
That's awesome. So you mentioned your dad taking you to see AC/DC. So I'll start with you, Jake. What do your parents think about this?
Yeah, so it's interesting. At first, so they're both immigrant mentality. Like my dad is first generation from Lebanon. He moved here when he was 6, so he's mostly, Canadian and Americanized, but they definitely had that work hard and become a doctor or a lawyer, kind of this defensive instinct, if you will, because where they came from is just, it was so difficult to have stability that when they came here, just working and climbing up, let's say, the corporate ladder felt like winning the lottery from their paradigm. So when I told them at 15 that I wanted to be a rock star, they thought I was insane, right? But what happened is years and years of persistence and success, and different things would come up, like this radio station would add us, or we won a Battle of the Bands, got to open for Sublime, and then we got tour opportunities, and different things just came up, and then we started to make some money, and we were able to support ourselves a little bit better. They warmed up to it pretty quickly, and now they are the biggest supporters. They're actually, it's funny, we're going to Europe next week. They booked tickets. They're going to be coming to see us in a few cities. They've just been so supportive, all of our parents. I mean, the greatest leg up that we got is that we got to live in our parents' houses rent-free, trying to do this crazy thing called be in a band that's successful. And so,
I don't know how successful you guys are going to be, but you're going on tour in Europe and you're going on tour this year in the States. So that's pretty good. So Joe, what do your parents think?
Same thing, similar to Jake, both from Italy. My parents are.
Really?
So the gold standard was like, get a job in construction. I know everyone in the city. We can hook you up. So anything outside of construction was a win. But it took a while for them to warm up. Like, even a couple of years ago, they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, my heart is in music. We're still working. And like Jake said, we kept growing and kept expanding our reach and getting better and writing harder and playing better. And so they saw how, hard we were working, and they were cool with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're too stubborn.
Yeah.
Immigrant mentality. It's like, we're not.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
And we don't fault them at all. Like,
no.
If I were in their shoes, the way they grew up and where they came from,
me out so fast.
I would have kicked me out.
Absolutely.
I would have not been in. But then the persistence combined with the actual evidence that it was working in the trajectory, they're the biggest fans. I mean,
now my dad's he wants to be the driver for the band.
He's
like, can I come to Europe and drive? I'm like, you've never driven there. Why would you be the driver?
That's right. Yeah, you guys probably got to get like a European driver.
We do.
Yeah.
We don't even know his name.
We don't know his name yet. Hopefully,
that's like the biggest
question
mark.
Cool.
Yeah, he has to stay with us. We're like, all right, let's go.
Hopefully he speaks English.
Yeah.
It's 50-50.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, final thing here for you guys. Who's the biggest rock star you met? Jake, I'll start with you.
Biggest rock star? Oh, this is going to be a hot take for your listeners, so I'm curious. But I haven't met Chad Kroeger. Ideally, I look at him like, dude, that guy's a rock star. I met Kid Rock. Actually, I saw your Made in Detroit logo. So we had a residency at Little Caesars in 2018, 2019, where we played at Kid Rock's restaurant. We were the house band, so that all the Wings fans
that's right. I remember
would
that.
see us playing there. And one day, Bob came on the year anniversary of the restaurant, and we got to meet him. And he is exactly as you picture he is. I mean, I'm sure.
He was smoking cigars and drinking whiskey inside all night.
Giving us advice. I love your song "Devil in Disguise," man. And what did he say? He won't mind us saying this, but he's like, here, let me give you some advice. Not that you asked for it.
This is the most Kid Rock advice.
He's like,
ever.
A good artist borrows inspiration from other artists, but a great artist effing steals from other artists. You gotta take that. I'm like, dude, you are so authentic.
But all summer long.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. He makes the points, but he's such a cool dude, just down to earth. And I think the reason that, I mean, he's not the biggest rock star on earth, but he's certainly up there. Mm-hmm. But he's got his audience of people that believes him and believes in him, and they know that he is who he is. And I think that's a rare thing. Like, a lot of people are scared to speak their mind and speak their beliefs.
He definitely speaks his mind.
He's unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like him or dislike him, he does do that. But Joe, what about you?
I would say Kid Rock. And Jake, you're forgetting we met Mark McGrath from.
In
Sugar
Okinawa.
Ray. So we were doing a military tour,
Nice.
playing for the military people, and we met Mark McGrath opening for him in Okinawa.
Yeah, I was sitting in like some hotel, and I was eating lunch. And I'm like, I don't know who this guy just looks like a rock star. So we ended up chit chatting, and it was Mark McGrath from And so we ended up opepening for them in Okinawa, playing for the U.S. military in 2023.
Dude, I loved you in Scooby-Doo 1. You were great.
Yeah.
I have a Mark McGrath story, which I'll tell you afterwards. But I didn't get a chance to meet him. But it's a different story. Yeah. But anyways, well, good luck to you guys over there in Germany stuff. When you guys are done this year, can you come back like at the end of the year and let us know how everything went?
Absolutely.
And what you have going on and.
We'll bring souvenirs.
100%.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Love to come back. Yeah, that'd be great. And thank you. And thanks to Jade and everybody for the support at the RIF. This is like a real benchmark.
Yeah. We've been talking about this for a long time.
The reach is insane. Like I'll get texts from distant acquaintances who I knew 10 years ago that are like, bro, I was grinding at 1 a.m. and I heard sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Pretty crazy.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming in here. We'll spread the word. Have a great time in Europe. I'm jealous. I'm going to be stuck here in Detroit. But
we'll bring you out next time.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, certainly.
Jake and Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my friend.